Hey guys, welcome back to Hangin with the Herd, episode 7 here. Going to chat a little bit of OTAs. We brought in Mark Valentin, who has his own YouTube channel where he talks Bills, talks UFC, talks other sports and stuff like that. So wanted to bring him in and get some insight. And here we go. How you doing today, Mark?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. And how are you doing today, Pierre?
Everything is good, man. You know, another day talking about the Bills, man. Can't wait.
Yeah, right. So yeah, we just wrapped up first week of OTAs. Got a couple more weeks to go. Anything specific you guys want to get into talking about the first week?
As far as right now, I know a big battle right now. Who's fighting for that left guard spot? That's a pretty hot topic. You know, after we lost Vitri and was it Reinhardt? Reinhardt, I don't know. I live in the DC area, so when he played for the Redskins, he was pretty horrible. So, you know, losing him, in my opinion, wasn't, you know, that big of a deal. But what are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Again, I think it's going to be like a by committee type situation. It's one of those things they're going to I think guard in the NFL is a plug-and-play position anyway. Like the idea that some Bills fans were perturbed by letting Vitri go, it's like, you know, the Bills have spent big money on guards in the past, and what has it gotten them? I mean, Derek Dockery at the time got the richest contract in Bills history, and what did it get them? So for me, it's whoever Marone and Pat Morris trust to put in there. I'm fine with it.
Like Zebri Sanders, he's pretty intriguing. I mean, you know, he blocked for EJ. He's pretty athletic, but he just can't stay healthy. But the player that I'm kind of rooting for is your boy out of Syracuse, man, Zach Chibane. He started, you know, 38 games in college, or 38, I'm sorry, consecutive games in college. But the good thing about it is that he knows the system. So his main thing is if he's able to actually, you know, block the lineman. You know, that's his only thing, you know. I think if he's able to do that, he knows the system. He might be, you know, the dark horse. What do you think about that?
To touch on what Mark was saying, I think that I agree. I'm not one of those fans that was interested in overpaying for Andy Levitri. I don't think you should overpay for interior linemen. With that said, I think the Bills had a really good interior line the past couple of years, and that's kind of what you saw in the running game as being one of the few things that stood out for us on offense was that interior line. With that, again, I think it's just like every other position on the field right now. It's all open to competition. I mean, the undrafted guy out of Syracuse could very well be the guy. I have a tough time seeing an undrafted guy walk in and be the starter day one. But like I said, it's a completely open competition at this point for every position on the field.
Next, you know, the wide receiver battle. You know, Stevie dealing with the back injury. You know, he wasn't out there, which is fine. But TJ Graham and Brad Smith seemed to step up, you know, the first week of OTAs. I know it's the first week, you know, the Rick Rogers wasn't there. Robert Woods wasn't there. So, of course, you know, they would, you know, be the one stepping up. But I'm pretty high on Brad Smith this year, guys. I know I'm probably the only person who thinks that way, but I think with, you know, him, you know, finally being able to focus at wide receiver, he's definitely, you know, one of the lead dogs as far as, you know, being that, you know, sixth wide receiver. What do you guys' thoughts on that?
I don't know. Six wide receiver that makes almost $4 million is just, that doesn't make a lot of sense for me anyway. And just the way this team is going, the direction, like I said before, the age, the money, the fact that they want to get younger guys in there like Rogers, Goodwin, Graham, Woods, there's really no place for him. I mean, he's basically, you're going to pay $4 million for a guy who covers kicks.
Me personally, I think he does more than that. I mean, he made plays. I mean, not every play, but, you know, we had Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing him the ball. So I know we have the young guys. It'll be pretty hard for him to make the team, you know, based off of that alone maybe. But I think he has talent that everyone is just not seeing, man. I mean, like I said, I'm probably the only one. I'm probably the crazy Bills fan who loves everyone. But I don't know, man.
Well, I do think it's kind of opposite of your argument for starting EJ Manuel week one because, again, it's, we're talking about a guy that is unproven at the age of 29. So you can say that when he has gotten his chance, he's done well, but I want to see the reps go to the younger guys. So I'm kind of also taking the opposite approach of saying, well, I want the young guys to get the reps at wide receiver. I think that's direction Buffalo's going in. I think there are other guys that can return kicks on this roster, so he's no longer the best gadget player on the roster, and I don't see him really as a special team stud to warrant keeping his salary on the roster.
With Brad Smith, you kind of don't know what to expect because he hasn't really focused on that position. Like, he didn't play that position full time. He was, doing, running quarterback on the side, kick return, all that type of stuff. But with, Cobb and Jackson, we know what to expect with them. I can talk until I'm blue in the face about, EJ Manuel starting week one, no matter what.
And I agree that I want him to. I'm just saying, you can't. Again, we don't know. I mean, there are certain things about Kevin Cobb's game that we do know. We also know that he can win in the NFL. Does he do it as consistently as Tom Brady? No. Has he won big games like Tom Brady? No. But he has won games in the NFL when protected and given an opportunity. So, I mean, we can't completely write the guy off. I don't want him to be the starting quarterback of the team, but I think you have to let the competition play out.
Yeah, but is he our future, though? That's my main question. Is he our future?
He was never signed to be the future. They said from day one when they signed him, and he will say this, that from the day they signed him, they told him they were going to draft the quarterback of the future. Does the future have to start in OTAs? Not necessarily. We got to get EJ Manuel signed, and then I think he really has to come in and prove that he's the best quarterback to his teammates more than to the fans, so his teammates can get behind him and say, this is the guy that we really want to play with.
How about you, Mark? What do you say?
I think it's kind of like it counter argues the EJ Manuel point. Brad Smith, I think I have a pretty good idea what the guy is. He played here with the Jets. He was a pedestrian wide receiver, kick returner, ran a few wildcat plays. That's all sexy, but I don't think that's the direction they're going. And again, $4 million, that matters to them. That matters. I mean, irregardless, I'd rather see Woods play. Again, Graham, Goodwin. Goodwin's going to be getting a lot of those little gadget plays. You have Spiller. They have enough of those type of players, and I think a guy like Brad Smith, it's not that he can't help. It's just it doesn't make sense for them at this point. It did 2-3 years ago. It doesn't now.
How about EJ?
EJ, again, I feel strongly that he should start. I feel like he should be pushed, and I don't think that he'll have any problem beating out Kevin Kolb. If John Skelton can beat out Kevin Kolb, EJ Manuel can beat out Kevin Kolb.
Very true. Very true.
Right, and that's my point is we had that discussion this morning on the Facebook page, and just to clarify where I come from, I do think EJ Manuel will be the starting quarterback. I'm rooting for him to become it, but I just in sports and in life, I don't like when anything's just handed to somebody. I do want him to be pushed to earn that respect from his teammates. Marone said recently in a press conference, when you get a bunch of guys out on the basketball court, you know who the best guy is. And that's how I want EJ Manuel to earn the position of starting quarterback, because I do think he is the best guy out there.
I get the whole, he should earn it, for his teammates. But I don't really see the point of even having a battle, man, because, I mean, listen, I've even heard fans who said that, if EJ and Cobb were even, we should still start Cobb because of his experience. I mean, listen, we could have just kept Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're going to have another mediocre quarterback, then what's the point of even drafting a damn quarterback in the first round? I mean, you draft a quarterback in the first round to make that person your franchise player or to get you over the top. So, I mean, just starting Kevin Kolb in general, in my opinion, if you want to win games early and ease, EJ in, I guess I can understand that point. If he does, beat out EJ, then I get that whole philosophy. But if Kolb doesn't beat him out by miles or even if they're even or somewhat even, EJ should get the job. I mean, and ease him in. Don't call 30 pass plays. Only call like 15 and run the rest. Hey, if we lose the game, we lose the game, but at least he's gaining that experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say, I agree with that to a point. But I think a lot of this speculation of Cobb even really being a chance to start is the fact that EJ Manuel got such a low number of reps in the first week of OTAs, and I don't think we can speculate off of that. I think the amount of reps that Tavares Jackson got was deciding whether or not they're going to keep him on the roster. They got to make a decision in the near future as to whether or not they're going to bring him along. I don't know if he'll last through training camp on the Bills roster, especially with the development quarterback right behind him. They're going to want to get that guy reps as well. But one of these guys is going to have to be a backup, and in the NFL, both of them have to be ready to start at any given week. You saw that Florida game where EJ Manuel got knocked out. Running quarterbacks, he's not a running quarterback, but if he will make plays out of the pocket. In the NFL, you have to have another guy ready. So I'm glad we have Kevin Cobb as a backup option.
But just real quick before, I don't want to cut you off there, Aaron, but just real quick, I'm kind of happy that you brought up the whole, him being a running quarterback. There's a lot of fans that are saying, he's a mobile quarterback. He's going to get injured. Look at Vic. Look at RG3. I get it. Vic, I'll give you the argument. He has proven year after year after year that he cannot stay healthy because he feels that he's Superman, RG3, I don't know. I'll give him more than a year. But Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, even Big Ben, who is the so-called mobile quarterback, they know how to run smart. They slide, they go out of bounds. EJ Manuel barely got injured in college. Yes, that big play, was it against Florida, you said?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Where he got knocked woozy.
He got blasted, yeah.
He should have been removed from that game.
Yeah, exactly. But, he knows how to run smart. I see how Russell Wilson runs, and he hardly got injured when it was based off of him scrambling. You know what I mean? How about you, Mark?
I think with those guys, with the running quarterback, you're looking at size. Colin Kaepernick is definitely not what you're going to see in Michael Vick running. When you got 235 pounds versus, around 210? It's a big difference. EJ's a big guy, and I like his chances running against these light in the loafers DBs who don't want to tackle anybody anymore. So, if he could exploit that, take advantage of it, great. If that allows him to get acclimated and become a better passer, get more comfortable with the speed of the game, I think they'll use that to their benefit. Like we touched on earlier, Russell Wilson and RG3, their first 8-9 games in the league were not that impressive. Their teams had either 500 or losing records, and once they settled down and the speed of the game got slower, they didn't have to use their legs as much, and they were able to really, you saw their passing numbers and just their numbers in general just go through the roof.
Yep.
Right. And the only point I brought up about being mobile, I don't think EJ is going to struggle being mobile, but you do, in the NFL today, the quarterback is a protected commodity in the pocket. In the pocket is the safest place to be for a quarterback. Once you step out of there, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Tom Brady or anyone. Your risk for injury goes up exponentially, whether or not you're mobile or whatever your size is. So all I'm saying is the amount of reps that they're getting in OTAs, where it's a new offense, it's got to be equal because everybody's got to be prepared to start at any given time throughout a season. Look at Cousins in Washington. If they didn't he wasn't going to be the starter going into the season. Everyone knew it was RG3, but he had to get those reps, and it ended up paying off because he got those reps.
Have anything to talk about as far as the defensive side of the ball?
See how Terrell Troop does. That's important to me.
Yeah, that's very important.
I need to see a guy. I need to see him do something because he's a bubble guy to me. There's a lot of those guys from that 09 draft. I think Carrington sticks because of his special teams ability. He's a pretty good reserve defensive lineman. Moats is a guy who's on the bubble. Justin Rogers is on the bubble. Aaron Williams, to me, is one foot out the door, the other on a banana peel. I don't like his chances of making the roster at all. Even with the position switch, they just drafted 2 safeties. Denoris Searcy's still there. Brian Scott's still there. He's the 5th guy on the depth chart to me. So, I mean, he's bad in space, and you need your safeties to play good in space, and he's lost. The guy, he's lost out there. And to be honest with you, I don't like the way he acts on Twitter. I really don't.
Now, how about Ron Brooks?
I like Ron Brooks.
Me too.
I like Ron Brooks. Justin Rogers, to me, yeah, he's on shaky ground a little bit.
Yeah. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I like Brooks. I will be interested to see how they plan on utilizing the different safeties they brought in. From what I understand, the defense, they're not going to have necessarily a strong safety, free safety combo like a traditional defense has. It won't matter who's the strong or the free. But I'm most interested to see how the new defense plays with the defensive line talent that we have. I know Williams is going to be off the ground a little bit more, and I mean Mario Williams in that. I'm interested to see. I don't think Kyle Williams plays well into the defensive scheme that they're going to be utilizing this year, so I want to see that. Again, I think Terrell Troop, if he can remain healthy, I think he's a big part of what they want to do on defense, but there's a huge question mark there because he hasn't played in a while. So I'm really interested to see how that defensive line shakes out.
Yeah. I know Vernon Kearney, he was making plays this week in OTAs, which is, like I said, as the first week I get it. But, 6'2", 4'4" speed. I mean, we have Gilmore on one side, and we're basically, looking for that other side. I don't know if it's going to be McKelvin, which I hope not.
I think they re-signed McKelvin to start.
Yeah, I mean, but if McKelvin does start, it would, most likely be, our nickel DB, if that. But I mean,
I think he's an outside cornerback.
Yeah.
I feel bad for McKelvin in that any DB on this roster. I mean, you could even lump Aaron Williams in there. They've been stuck with George Katabalos their entire career, and that defensive staff was just a mishmash. And we had a head coach who was basically masquerading as a head coach. He was really an offensive coordinator. Ask him a question about defense, he would be like, "Well, I don't know. I had my head buried in offensive stuff." So I think a lot of these defensive guys are going to get like a long look by the new staff, but especially the DBs. I mean, this guy carried over from, I think he was the original Giron defensive back coach. So I'd like to see Donnie Henderson have a long look at all of them. But I do believe McKelvin's going to start. He has ability. Everybody gets on him for not intercepting balls, but
he's
Thomas
there.
Smith Thomas Smith didn't intercept passes. He broke them up, but he didn't intercept them.
Right. I agree on the point of McKelvin too. I think McKelvin has a lot of skill to offer at the cornerback position, a lot more than what's on the depth chart currently. I think we have a lot of young talent that's going to have to learn the physicalness of the game. Like Kearney, I'm big on him, but I think he's going to take a while coming from a small school to learn. I mean, these NFL receivers are grown men, and he's going to have to play with them. I think McKelvin, I think all the cornerbacks are going to benefit from a defense that's going to show some different looks in blitz. Last year, we didn't blitz. We ran a really base vanilla defense. The quarterbacks had all the time in the world. I mean, you can only ask a cornerback in man coverage to hold the guy down for so long before he gets open. So I think all the cornerbacks struggled last year to maintain that coverage where there wasn't a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Now, talking about man coverage, though, Aaron, do you think that McKelvin is able to hold his own?
I think
man-to-man coverage?
I think he can go step for step with any receiver in the league. I think a lot of it's going to, like Mark was saying, I think a lot of it's going to be coaching, working on keeping those hips open type stuff. I don't think the coaching, if you look at the cornerbacks since the Giron era, it's all been the same mediocre quarterback play, guys not living up to their potential at the cornerback position. Gilmore's really been the only guy to come in late in the season even. Gilmore made a lot of mistakes last year. But late in the season, he really began to shut guys down. So, football is the only sport where it takes 11 guys on the field. So the cornerbacks are only as good as the pressure that's coming on the quarterback.
How about you, Mark?
Yeah, to me, again, McKelvin, he's their best option at number 2. And we talk about competition and how this new staff and new regime as a whole preaches it. If you look at the last regime, and that includes Knicks, Kelvin Shepherd was a third-round pick, and he was just kind of like, okay, we drafted this guy in the third round. He's going to be our middle linebacker. Who did he compete with for that job? Nobody. Aaron Williams, the same thing. He was just like, he's our outside corner, and they
just got plopped in.
Yeah, and all they did with McKelvin was, he's a nickel. Oh, he's not good at nickel. We're going to put him back outside. When Aaron Williams got hurt, which he's been hurt his first 2 years, McKelvin held it down over there until he got hurt returning. I think he got hurt returning a punt. And again, Aaron Williams is just not an NFL quarterback. I don't believe he's an NFL player. I honestly think Aaron Williams was Buddy Nick's worst draft pick, and that's with Terrell Troop being hurt.
Was he that bad on Twitter, Mark? God, man, you're bashing this guy, man.
He's pretty cocky on.
He is.
On Twitter. He even got into it with Thurman Thomas a little bit, and he's just, dude, relax. You're half out of the league already. Just please let it go. Don't talk all that trash if you've done nothing.
Yeah.
And it was pretty, being a Bills fan, there was a couple of games where teams just really picked on Aaron Williams, and there was no answer that the defense came up with, and he couldn't hold his own to make an answer. I mean, they just continued to throw at him and expose him, and it was pretty embarrassing, a handful.
But the reason why I would bring up the cornerbacks, because I think that's one of the position battles that isn't being talked about enough, because the Jets defense was basically predicated on having those two shutdown corners. Those two corners who you leave them on the island, and then and Pettin brings the blitz every other play. So that's why I'm saying I don't know. I mean I think we definitely have to look closer at
last year.
And what's up?
What was that?
They played really well without Revis last year.
Yeah,
and that's kind of why they let him walk. They said, wow, that you don't really. I mean, that's kind of a fallacy, the way the NFL calls pass plays now, how good these wide receivers are. It's you can only cover a guy for 3 to 4 seconds, and he's going to get open.
That's right, and that's my point. And I think so. I'm glad you brought that up, Pierre, because you look at the Jets and you talk about their great cornerbacks, but again, football is an 11-man sport. Those cornerbacks became great, I think, because of the defensive scheme as a whole, of the pressure on the quarterback. They only had a couple seconds to get that ball out.
That's true.
And quarterbacks make worse decisions when they have less time.
That's very, very true. That's very, very true. I mean, Gilmore, proved, like you said, Aaron, he definitely played great, late during the season. He definitely became that, shutdown corner that we've been looking for. We definitely have to look at how that number 2 corner, who that corner is going to be. I definitely can't wait till preseason, man, or at least till training camp.
I think where we didn't really, I was kind of hoping that the Bills would draft that Taylor guy from Boise State. I think he ended up going to Miami. And so I was kind of hoping we'd get a guy like that in the draft, but we ended up going with the 2 safeties. So I think next year's draft, we're not done building this team either. It's not like this is a Super Bowl contender right away. There's still some holes on the roster. I think they brought in some guys in free agency that can play in this league, but they need some development. And it might not happen this year, but it's going to happen. So I think this is McKelvin's job to lose the second cornerback position.
I think we're going to the bowl this year, man. This year we're going to the bowl this year. What do you
I wouldn't complain.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to be pissed. I'm not going to be pissed about it, but I just want to. I want to see a playoff game before we start talking about the bowl. I want to see a playoff game.
That is true. That is true. I mean, you're
Even
bringing the
last year,
whole
such a
Jets
low
here, man.
seed.
You never know, man. They
Our
are.
schedule's weak. Our defense is better. We can sneak our way into the playoffs with a 10-6 record. That was the standard last year. Not that we're going to go out and dominate anyone. We're just
Right.
we're gonna dink and dunk our way into the playoffs. That was the battle cry last year.
Yeah. And this year, the schedule's not easy. It's not going to be an easy road to get through the season, but it's going to be good for a young team, I think. I think it's, again, I think this year is building up to 2014 to 2020 Bills as a perennial playoff team.
Now, just a quick thought. We haven't brought it up yet, but as far as the signing of Doug Whaley, you guys happy about that?
I mean, it's long overdue.
Yep.
And again,
You think
like,
he's qualified, though? Is the main
Oh.
question.
I mean, was the Knicks qualified?
Was Marv Levy qualified?
Marv Levy was window dressing. I mean, he was a guy they brought out of the back room to make everybody feel good about the team again because Donahoe had alienated the fan base so bad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
Russ Brandon wasn't qualified either.
No, he's another guy. He just took the job because Ralph was so scared after the whole Donahoe thing. He named himself team president. I mean, Modrak, another guy. He hung around there forever. What did he do? He just seemed to
Sloppiness.
hang around.
Didn't Donahoe come from Pittsburgh as well?
I think he did too.
Yeah. It was the whole thing between him and Cower, whether it was like Cower saying, well, this guy's going or I'm going.
Right.
And more on that, I can't underscore enough how big it is. I mean, and none of us have ever seen this, how big it is to have Ralph finally out of the way.
Oh, my God.
To have Ralph out of the way. And how fast did everybody hear, oh, Lovie Smith, he wants to interview with the Bills. This guy wants to interview with the Bills. Doug Marrone could have took other jobs. Could have been Philly's head coach. He could have been Cleveland's head coach. He could have been San Diego's head coach. He chose Buffalo. Yeah. And I think that says something about having to deal with a 94-year-old man. And I remember long ago, it was an SI article, and I remember John Butler was pretty much going to leave the team. It was all known that he was going to leave the Bills, and I just was wondering why. I was a 19-year-old kid. I was kind of naive to the business. And I remember reading, he quoted, he's like, they asked him, why are you leaving? You built this team, got so much success. He says, it's a hard place to work. That's all he said. It's a hard place to work. And that always stuck with me. And this whole tenure of non-playoffs, that it still rings in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ralph getting out of the way was a big thing, both for the business side and for the football side. I think there was that past 10 years has just been a senile old man running the organization and not knowing what direction he really wants to go. And I feel like from top to bottom, we got younger across the board since Ralph went away. We got a younger president, we got a younger head coach, younger coordinators, and now we have a younger GM. I think Doug Whaley, since he came into the organization, I've been waiting for him to take the reins as GM, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with this team.
Yeah, yeah.
And the one thing Brandon has said repeatedly, he said it at the press conference right after they fired Chan. When he announced that he was taking over the reins of the team, he said, I'm going to empower people to do their jobs. He's repeated that over and over again. To me, that says there was the 10,000-pound elephant in the room that was just on top of people, and their hires reflect it. Malarkey was not – the last time they hired a head coach that was valued by other teams was Greg Williams. He turned out to not be too good. Malarkey was a guy that was not going to be retained by Pittsburgh. Well, they had Dick LeBeau running the defense and Jerry Gray. But the last, how many coaching hires? Those are guys that wouldn't have gotten jobs anywhere. They couldn't have given those jobs away. They couldn't have given the general manager job away.
That's true.
And that's scary when you have an NFL team. There's only 32 of them. You couldn't give those jobs away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Russ Brandon also touched to that point in his press conference, is saying this brand has been tarnished. And it is going to take a couple of years to get that brand back up. I mean, you see it on NFL Network. Marshall Faulk always kind of making fun of Buffalo. People are in the national spotlight are just
Rodney Harrison.
They're all just kind of picking on Buffalo. And honestly, you can't really blame them with the decisions that have been made over the past decade. And they are kind of a joke. And I see that trend turning, though, with all these changes in the offseason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely looking like we're going in the right direction, which is pretty intriguing. It's pretty exciting. For us to have the youngest front office in the NFL is definitely something to look forward to. But yeah, guys, I mean, it was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Now
we'll have to have you on again soon, Mark.
Yeah, definitely, Mark. Now, when are the OTAs again? On Monday?
Tuesday.
No, Monday's a holiday, so they start back up. Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay. All right, guys. So expect week 2 of the OTA show on Friday. It was great talking to you guys. Join our, Facebook group page, Hang with the Herd fan page. I found Mark on YouTube. The guy makes amazing Buffalo Bills videos. He's a mastermind, in my opinion, as far as his views on the Bills, man. He knows his stuff, man. So, visit his page, Vicious Sid on YouTube. All right, guys. Talk to you guys later, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me again.